Hi, Golfina Egglesdottir here. Today I am making some wax tablets for largesse, and wax tablets have been in use for a very, very, very long time. So basically through most of our periods that we cover in the SCA, they come in different sizes, different quality, different styles of arrangement. So the style that I'm making today is a diptych. So it's a two-piece. It'll open out like that. It'll have wax on both sides, and it'll have leather straps that'll hold them together. And then you use the stylus and write on the wax. And anyway, they're pretty cool. So I started off with 1/2 inch width, 6 by I think 24 inch. It's just called craft board that you can pick up at any of the big box stores. This one, because they're American sizes, they're not actually 6 inches wide, they're 5.5. Our lumber sizes are a little different. So I was able to cut out, how many pieces is that? Six pieces per board, using a 4-inch width. So that would give me four per board, and I had 4 boards, or 3 boards, so I'm doing like a total of 12. But anyway, you can do different sizes. I had another piece that was left over from another project, so I'm making one that's just a little bit wider, where I used the 6.5 as the length on, or the width on it, and then went a little bit longer to make a big one. Anyway, all right, that's enough math. I guess there's a little more math. So I went through and I measured all of them 1/2 inch in from the edge, and that'll be my border of the part that's hollowed out. And then I've marked a 1/4 inch in where I'll drill holes, and that's where the leather will tie in. So normally, obviously, these would be hand chiseled, and I just don't have the hand strength to do 24 pieces of them by hand. So I am using a hand router, which is pretty good for this. But there's a couple tips that I want to share in case you want to try to make your own. Don't tell my husband he was right about anything that he recommended, though. Shh. So when you start, you don't want to trace out a line like this all the way around, because what happens is sometimes the trees fight back and you'll run into soft spots or hard spots, or maybe a little knot even on this kind of wood, or your router just jumps, or you lost your grip on it. And so you end up with sections where you can see how really uneven this is and how it's completely outside of the line. Here's where the router jumped and took a chip out, so I'll have to fill that later. So this is going to take a lot more work to go back and clean up. I could go across around the edges again with a router and smooth it out, but I'm going to lose a lot more wood than if I do it by hand. So instead, I recommend starting in from your lines a little bit, and this is where I set the router down. It doesn't just automatically go to the depth that you have it set at. Mine's set at a 1/4 inch so that it's about half the depth of my wood. So I just start the router and get it started, and it kind of makes a slope like you're getting into a swimming pool. And then when it gets down to its full depth and it's actually like completely resting on the guide, then I just go back up and grab it. And then take your router and just do lines going down, just not all the way to your last mark. And I leave it flat on the table and don't move the route. I don't lift up the router at all. I just train it. I just take it back same way, using my guides up to the beginning, and then move over a little bit to the left or to the right, depending on which way you're working, and then pull it back down towards me to shave off the next, and then repeat. The fewer times you have to actually lift your router, the better, because whenever you set it back down, you run a risk of nicking off a little something right next to it where you didn't want to. And because this one has nice little light, and you can see the bit from the front, I always pull it towards me so I can watch and see exactly where it's going, so I don't run out of the lines too much. So knock out all your center section, and then you can take the router and just gently run along your edge where your lines were, and you'll get it cleaned up a little bit more. And then of course, once these are all done, we can go back in with sandpaper, files, chisels, whatever needed to make it as clean as you want it. just depending on what your purpose is. If it's just a functional item for yourself, you may not care quite as much, but if you're making it for someone else, you know, you'll make it look a little nicer. So one thing you'll see is that the router leaves uneven spots on the bottom. This is actually perfect for wax tablets. Don't worry about that at all. It's a good thing. A lot of the extant examples actually had little grid lines just lightly chiseled in, probably to help the beeswax grab once we pour the beeswax in. A couple other things to look out for if you are using a hand router and you have your guide, this part right here. So my bit sticks out 1/4 inch. You need to keep it flat on the above surface, no matter where you're working in it. If you are moving to an open area and you let it tilt, you get gouges, which you can see. That one right there isn't that bad. There's a nice little buttonhole. Again, not a big deal for this project because, you know, the beeswax will just lay in there. But usually, you know, you want it a little more level than that. And also, if you were going deeper on yours, like say you went 3/8 of an inch deep for the beeswax, and then you have a divot like that, you're getting really close to the exterior and you start getting daylight through it. So that is where I'm at right now. I'm going to finish all of these up with the gouging, and then I will come back and talk about finishing the wood and then move on to adding the beeswax. Thanks.